Hi there and welcome to iQUANTA's YouTube channel, and as you can see today you and I are going to sit together to work on grammar review. So the idea is to help you revise all the key concepts of grammar, but the question is this a session that you should be attending? So let's start there and ask ourselves this very simple straightforward thing. Who's this session for? So, when we prepare for the CAT exam, we end up focusing a lot on things like reading comprehension and paragraph-based questions like parajumbles, odd one out, summary, all those things. But the moment you start writing all these other exams, then things become different. There are more and more things that get added to your syllabus, and we have covered those things in our dedicated batches on those exams. So the question that you need to ask yourself first up is that, are you somebody who's going to write one of these exams? SNAP, NMAT, XAT, CMAT or Maharashtra CET? And do you want to revise grammar? So if you answer a yes to any of these two questions, then this session is going to be useful for you. So if you answer a yes to these two questions, then this series, in fact, why am I even calling it a session? This series is going to be quite useful for you, where I'll take you through all the dominant high frequency key concepts. Apart from that, you can of course go ahead and discuss your doubts, your specific concerns with me. But we will keep it grammar focused for the next few sessions. We'll meet every day at 5 until we have gone through all the key concepts. And after that, hey, if we have some time left, we can go ahead and run a similar series on vocabulary if you want. Okay, so very good evening, Shalvi, Rohit, Divyanka. Okay, a lot of people tuning in. So today we plan to focus on two parts of speech. What are the two parts of speech that we are going to talk about? So the focus area today is nouns and pronouns, and tomorrow when we meet each other, we are going to focus on another dominant area called tense, which is obviously a very high frequency area. So if you happen to have any doubts, ambiguities, confusion, concern in this, तो भाई कल साथ में लेके आने का, ताकि सारे कॉन्सेप्चुअल डाउट्स क्लियर करके जाओ. आज लेकिन काम करेंगे नाउन्स पे और प्रोनाउंस पे, स्टार्टिंग विद nouns. So any questions before we start? Shreya says CAT Ross course did not come good, very disappointed. My NMAT attempt is on Sunday. Okay. Yeah, ab dekho, I can understand, when you prepare for an exam and the score is not really up to the mark, up to what you desired, I think it's completely normal to feel disappointed. If you do not get affected by that, then probably that is something that I'll call unusual. But I really, really love this attitude where now you are thinking about the exam that is up ahead. Okay? So, sir, 10th को NMAT है, उससे पहले करवा दो जितना. आशीष, प्लान तो ये है यार कि हर रोज अब से लेकर के 8th तक कोशिश करेंगे हर रोज काम साथ में करें, ताकि जितना जल्दी इन चीज़ों को जिस हद तक रिव्यू करवा पाए कर लिया जाए. ओके, तो चलिए लेट्स गो. आज का लोकेशन चेंज, यार वो रिस्पॉन्स शीट आ गई थी ना, तो रिस्पॉन्स शीट आने के बाद अपन ऑफिस आ गए थे, स्टूडियो में ही थे, तो आई थॉट आई विल गो अहेड एंड टेक द सेशन फ्रॉम हियर. इज इट सेफ टू चेक स्कोर्स? बुरहानुद्दीन, is it safe to check scores? Absolutely yes, because the scores are based on your response sheet. The only ambiguity could be with respect to the percentiles, because those percentiles are essentially based on our guesstimates. So your actual percentiles may change, but your scores won't. Okay? हाँ, बाकी वो थोड़ी बहुत स्केलिंग वगैरह होगी, वो सब चीज़ें होंगी, but you'd at least be thereabouts. थोड़ा बहुत ऊपर नीचे तो चलेगा ना. Okay, so chaliye, so let's go ahead and start working on nouns. Now, typically when we study nouns, what do we study there? So you are supposed to know about these different types of nouns. The nouns happen to have three properties: the property of number, the property of gender, and the property of case. So whatever question is built from nouns has to be built from one of these four areas. Now, does that mean that all the four areas are important for us? Not really. The important areas are, number one, types. So you remember all those different types: common noun, proper noun, collective noun, abstract noun. Remember those types? Why are they important? They are important because they will help you in taking care of errors based on subject-verb agreement, and they will help you taking care of the errors based on articles. So make sure that when you look at a particular noun, you know which type, which category it belongs to. Then there are these nouns that happen to have irregular plurals. So you remember when you go from singular to plural in countable nouns, there is a standard way of creating a plural. You add an S, an ES, or an IES, right? However, there are nouns that do not follow that particular pattern. For example, what is the plural of radius? You know that, right? Okay, what is the plural of, let me start with a noun that you probably know, axis. So these nouns happen to have an unusual plural form, so we call them nouns with irregular plurals. So you are supposed to know of this. Absolutely, you know, radii, yes. Axis, the plural is, you change this I, you replace this I with an E, and the pronunciation also changes. Now we call it axes. So this ES is pronounced as E's. So axes, and there is an entire family of such words. So you know that, right? So focus on nouns with irregular plurals. That's going to be a high frequency area for us. Then there is something called mass nouns. Mass nouns are nouns that are always plural. Quite a few of them are used by the examiner to stump us, to fool us in the exam. Then for XAT specifically, I think I'm focusing more on XAT when I write this. For XAT, you would perhaps like to be aware of the gender of a given noun. And I'll write the fifth one as well. You remember there is something called a collective noun. These are countable, but then there are some situations where the base forms of the collective nouns are also treated as plural. So what those situations are, and mastering the underlying area, those are the kind of things that you would ideally want to be well versed with, well aware of, so that you can go ahead and conquer it. Right? So typically when it comes to the checklist, when it comes to spotting errors based on nouns, I say that if there are nouns, just check whether it is countable or uncountable. If countable, then check if the sentence is supposed to use singular or plural. In case it is a plural, then is it using the right plural? Plus, singular countable nouns almost always take an article or a determiner before, so make sure that you have that there. And of course, run it in order to ensure the subject verb agreement. And finally, the same thing emphasized once again, that make sure that there is a correct plural form being used. So these are the kind of things, if you follow, or let's say you look at a sentence and you're doubtful, is the noun part okay here? Then just mentally run yourself through these things and you'd be able to spot almost all the noun based errors. Okay? Abhinav, absolutely yes. People is one such mass noun. Let me give you one more. Peasantry. You want more? Cattle, clergy, vermin. All of these are plural. Although people in one particular scenario, in one particular context can be a singular. And in that context, you would also have a plural called peoples. So how about you look it up in the dictionary and share it with me in our session tomorrow? That'll be fun. Okay, so now let's go ahead and solve some questions together. So here are the directions for 11 questions that are based on nouns, and we'll use them to cover a lot of high frequency key concepts. Redefine makeup. It's normal यार, इतनी तैयारी के बाद पेपर अच्छा नहीं हो, you'd obviously feel bad, I understand. Now my strategy is that when I feel bad, I give myself a limited amount of time to feel upset. So let's say just devote this evening to being upset, and from tomorrow on let's just go ahead, think ahead. So I give it 5 minutes, 25 minutes, half a day, that's enough. But then I just immerse myself in that feeling. I feel it fully. Then I do not, in that duration, I do not try to avoid it. And the truth is, you would realize that even half an hour is a lot when you totally immerse yourself in that feeling. Okay? You'll feel great. Okay. So here is your first question. Damn, I should have added a timer. थोड़ा ज़्यादा मज़ा आता, पर चलो तुम लोग बताओ. The moment I get 10 answers, I'll start the discussion. So what's your take on question number 1? A, B, C or D? Kanhaiya straight off the bat giving me the answer. Fabulous. आस्था नाउन प्रोनाउंस कवर कर ले, बहुत ज़्यादा देर नहीं करेंगे. जितनी देर में सारी की चीज़ें हो जाएं, अननेसेसरी टाइम थोड़ी लगाना यार अपने को. हाँ. Okay. So far I have 5, 6 answers. 7, 8, 9 and 10 answers. You guys are absolutely right. The correct answer is A, and the reason is scissor is a noun that is always plural. We have nothing called scissor. We always use scissors. Remember a lot of nouns that are always plural? A lot of these were taught to you back in school. Trousers, shorts, basically everything that a man wears waist down except for a lungi is plural. Then binoculars, headphones, spectacles, scissors. Here is another one. Innings. In British English, the variant of English that we follow in Indian B school exams, we do not have a noun called an inning. In American English and baseball, we use inning. So if you're writing the GMAT, of course, inning is valid, legit. For Indian B school exams, no, it will always be innings. Okay. So therefore, A. Here is the next question. So, A, B, C, D, what do you want? Ridhima, you can put in a pair of scissors if you want to. Yes, you're right. So scissor is wrong. That was the error. The rest of it I thought you probably know. Ishanika, absolutely right. So question number 2, प्रश्न क्रमांक 2. अच्छा, पेपर में तो ऐसा नहीं होता, बट अगर तुम मुझे आंसर के साथ साथ एरर क्या है वो भी बताओगे तो बोनस मार्क्स फॉर यू. ओके, सो let's see. So I am a vegetarian and thankfully I love fruits and vegetables. So do you realize that fruit is uncountable? And because it is uncountable, you won't really use a plural here. So instead of using fruits, we should have used just fruit. So yes, there is a specific context where we are talking about different types of fruit. together in a sentence. In that context, yes, we may at times use fruits. It's true of some of these uncountable nouns. Remember, grain is uncountable. But if you're talking about different types that you can go ahead and use, grains. So similarly, fruit by default is uncountable. So let's say you are visiting somebody in a hospital और आपको बोलना है मैं कुछ फल लेके आया हूँ. पता है हिंदी में भी uncountable है. मैं कुछ फल लेके आया हूँ. I've brought some fruit. We don't use a plural, and therefore the correct answer here will be option C. There is an idiomatic expression, okay, fruits of labor. In that expression too you use a plural, but normally the default is treat it as uncountable. Now vegetables is no. I mean, I've got some fruits and vegetables. Okay, then question number 3. What's your take? Yes, Ankit, that's okay. Ishanika, for some of these things, I'll be hard pressed to give you logic. Wherever there is logic, those are the kind of questions that you are likely to get right, and therefore, I'm not bringing those in. Every language has some quirks as well, no? Every language, including your mother tongue. Okay, so here, once again, you notice this advise. Advise is an uncountable noun, and when it comes to a or an are put before only the singular countable nouns. If a noun is plural, we cannot use a or an. If a noun is uncountable, we cannot use a or an. So because advise is uncountable, we cannot really use an, and that is the error. You can say, I remember the piece of advice my father gave me. You cannot really use an advice. Okay, you can say the advice, the piece of advice, those kind of things will be fine, and that is why the answer here is option B. Okay, next one. Wow, Divya, excellent. Akanksha, fabulous. Some of you, Chinmay, who else? Himika, some of you sharing what you found wrong as well, which is absolutely, lovely. So you share what is wrong, and that's fabulous. Okay, so a lot of you are giving me C as the answer. I am going to apply 2 is correct. 2 is absolutely correct. You apply to a college, to a program. But the trouble here is that you notice program is a singular countable noun. So normally a singular countable noun is supposed to have a determiner, an article before it. It is missing that article. So not putting an article is more of an exception than the rule. Okay. So we needed to have a here. After my graduation, I'm going to apply to a nursing program. The rest of it is fine. Shweta, what do you think is wrong in B? If you share that, then I can perhaps give you even more input. Okay. So correct answer for question number 4 is option C. Let's go ahead and look at 5th. Bhavika, reason was singular countable nouns usually take an article. So if there are no articles before a singular countable noun, it has to be one of those exception scenarios, otherwise that part will be incorrect. So the answer to question number 5 is D. Now you notice that there are some countable nouns that happen to have the same form in singular as well as plural. Some countable nouns that happen to have the same form in singular and plural both. Fish is one of those nouns. Remember fish, deer, sheep, innings, series, species, aircraft, spacecraft. Same noun, same form in singular and plural both. So here, if you say the fish is, absolutely correct. You say the fish are, absolutely correct. If you put is, there was just one fish. If you put are, more than one. Okay, and we do use fishes as an exception at times when we want to talk about different species or varieties. Otherwise, I'd say I have a fish in the aquarium at home. I have 3 fish in the aquarium at home. Both are correct, right? So Aritra, I hope that answers your concern as well. Fishes होता है as an exception जब अलग-अलग species या varieties की बात की जा रही हो. Okay? Megomic, absolutely yes. So that is why R is correct. Is also correct. So therefore you would not mark it as your error. Both the sentences will convey 2 different meanings, but both are going to be grammatically right. So because it's not wrong, you will not choose that as your error. Okay, next. Ridhima, no, don't replace. So first up, that is anyway correct. And number 2, if you put which there, I will probably frown upon that. Okay, just go ahead and read up a bit on restrictive and non-restrictive clauses, and that will answer your question. And in case you are not able to understand them, get back to me and I'll go ahead and explain it to you. Okay, so A, is it B? Okay, so India and China's armies are facing off each other in Ladakh. Now tell me, India and China happen to have a joint ownership of some army, or are these 2 armies different where India has the ownership of one army and China has the ownership of another army? So you notice there are times when 2 or more people happen to have a joint ownership. So when I was one fine day I was there driving and I saw a car ahead of me, and that car had a sticker on its rear windshield, and that sticker said, I'm a Punjabi, I also live in Delhi. The sticker said, Chunnu te munnu di gaddi. So gaddi is basically Punjabi for vehicle. Chunnu and munnu are names. So there was one car and Chunnu and Munnu were 2 owners of that car. So if I were to write it in English, I'll say Chunnu and Munnu's car. So when people happen to have a joint ownership, then you put an apostrophe s only to the second noun. But in this particular case, it's very clear that Indian army is different, Chinese army is different, and both of them are facing off each other. And because the armies are under different ownerships and not a joint ownership, you need to show that difference in ownership by repeating that apostrophe s. So it should be India's and China's armies are facing off each other in Ladakh. This is an error that pertains to the possessive case of a noun. Okay? So A. The rest of it is absolutely correct, and that is why the answer to our question number 6 must be option A. Next. मयंक, दैट्स फैबुलस यार, उससे अच्छा क्या. हाँ श्रेया, आप कर सकते हैं, इंडियन एंड चाइनीज आर्मीज बोल सकते हैं श्रेया, दैट विल बी एब्सोल्युटली करेक्ट, इवन दैट विल बी फाइन, सो नथिंग रॉन्ग विद दैट. But India and China's was definitely wrong. There can be multiple ways of fixing it or correcting it. Fabulous, fabulous. Yes, the answer is A. Course is singular, therefore the verb that you write will also be singular, and thus it should be provides. Absolutely spot on. I think all of you have gotten it right. Next, question 8. Srijita, when you use Chinese army, then that's absolutely correct, yeah? Nothing wrong with that. If you use just Chinese, then there'll be a problem. As long as they're used as an adjectives, they are going to be okay. So, what's your take? Okay, loads and loads of answers. Sounds like man-child, I know. But you guys are absolutely correct. The answer is indeed C, and it should be men. Now see, normally when you see a compound noun, normally it is the second part which is pluralized. Except for compound nouns that happen to have man or woman in it, in which case both the forms, both the sides are pluralized. So you say woman athlete, the plural is women athletes. Man athlete, the plural is men athletes. So both the sides needed to be pluralized. These are more of exceptions, so I'm just covering it. So C is the correct answer. Here is the next one. 9th. What's your take on this? Okay, so the correct answer is indeed A. This part is still okay. You can fix it if you want to, but there is a bigger problem here. What is that bigger problem? This should not be years, this should be year. This S is wrong. You notice in this particular sentence, man is the noun, and this entire part that you see here, that's an adjective. So this year is not a noun in this particular expression, it is an adjective. And adjectives do not have singular and plural forms except for color adjectives, which can at times have plurals, but normally they do not have singular and plural forms. So I am on a 3-day leave or 3 days leave. I'm on 3-day leave. I'm on 3-day leave, 3 days leave. 3-day holiday, 3 days holiday. 3-day holiday. 50 rupee note, 50 rupees note. So you say 50 rupees when rupee is a noun there. Hey, can I borrow 50 rupees? Hey, but I see a 50 rupee note. Do you see a long weekend coming? There will be a 3-day holiday. So be mindful of that. So therefore year and not years, and thus the answer is yes, A. Here is the next one. Srijit, whatever it is, there are times when nouns can be gender ambiguous, so I apologize if I misgender you, but I hope that this fixes the problem now. Riddhima, it's absolutely okay. See, the idea is in the exam, I want you to mark an answer with confidence. So if you study restrictive, non-restrictive, then which versus that, who versus that problem will be sorted off, taken care of. Fabulous, fabulous. Loads and loads of answers. Yes, the correct answer is B. The plural of brother-in-law is not brother-in-laws. The plural of brother-in-law is brothers-in-law. So the S should be here and not here. So it ends up using a wrong plural form, and that is why part B is the one which is incorrect. Was founded is absolutely okay. It's a passive voice structure where you use the third form of the verb. So that's absolutely all right. Okay, in the passive voice you would never use the first form, no? Okay, and here comes the 11th and the last noun-based question, which will introduce yet another dimension. Let's see. अरे मयंक, वो लॉस्ट एंड फाउंड वाला फाउंड नहीं था भाई. इट वॉज नॉट द लॉस्ट एंड फाउंड वाला फाउंड. It was, remember, if a company has a founder, then that founder is called a founder because he found that company, because he established that company. So it was that found and not the lost found. Okay, so I'm waiting for some more answers and then we'll talk. So one of the grammatical errors that may exist in a question is that it may end up using a wrong word. So that's what is happening here. So you notice this word canon with a double N. A cannon basically is artillery. You know, a large heavy piece of artillery which is typically mounted on wheels, जिसको हिंदी में हम बोलते हैं तोप. Whereas what you required here was principles or rules. That cannons is spelt with a single N. So this question basically exploited the difference between these two confusables. This cannon or this cannon. And that's what was needed here, and that is why the correct answer is A. We needed not this but this. Cannons, which means rules or principles. Whereas this cannon, a heavy piece of artillery used in warfare, usually has wheels, so things like tanks. Okay? So there you go. Sorry, Kanaya, I'm not able to read all the questions straight up, but I was asking you after joint possession, what can we use, singular noun or plural noun? Kanaya, that depends on what the joint possession is about. So for example, you and I run a shop in partnership. So I'll say, yeah, Kanaya and Vikrant's shop, because we have just one shop. But what if we happen to have a chain of stores and we still run them in joint ownership? Then we say Kanaya and Vikrant's stores. As long as there is joint ownership of those, even if that's a plural, it's still okay. So it just depends on what is it that you have the joint ownership of. Right? Okay, so that's about nouns. Now let's talk about pronouns. So when it comes to pronoun checklist, just ask yourself 3 things. Are you sure of these 3 things? So first up, pronoun antecedent agreement. This gives you the highest number of questions in the exam from pronouns. So what pronoun antecedent agreement says is that a pronoun must agree with its noun in terms of number, gender and case. So please ensure that the pronoun agrees with the noun that it replaces in those 3 respects. The second is pronoun consistency. So if you've started using a pronoun to refer to a person, please make sure that throughout that context you use that same pronoun or the different forms of that same pronoun to refer to the same person. You cannot keep switching between or among multiple pronouns for the same person. And check for pronoun clarity is, these errors are extremely rare. You may find these in XAT, or maybe I think XAT is the only one which probably would get into this. The rest of them do not even get into it. It simply means that when you see a pronoun, you need to be sure which noun it refers to. That's about it. So if you are not sure of which noun it is referring to in a given context, then it is a problem. Fair enough? सलोनी says, please guide me, I'm confused कि एग्जाम दूँ या नहीं. बिल्कुल देना है, इसमें कंफ्यूजन वाली क्या बात है? एग्जाम तो देनी है. Why would you even think of not writing an exam? You say my quant is not good and that's fine, so what? भाई तुम मतलब क्या, मुझे यार एक बात बताओ, क्वांट के साथ पैदा होते हैं क्या हम लोग? हाँ, कि ये बंदा पैदा होगा तो भगवान इसे क्वांट के साथ पैदा करेगा, उसको. You need to work more on this area as compared to some other people. That's all that it means. Nothing more, nothing less. और कुछ नहीं है. सच बोलूं तो एप्टीट्यूड टेस्ट दिमाग का गेम नहीं है, मेहनत का गेम है. रॉकेट साइंस थोड़ी है, इन्वेंशंस थोड़ी करवा रहे हैं. मेहनत कर सकते हो कि नहीं कर सकते हो. हाँ, वो मेहनत सही डायरेक्शन में होनी चाहिए, पर तुम सेशंस हमारे अटेंड करो, गाइडेंस तो मिल ही रही है तुम्हें. जहां भी प्रॉब्लम हो पूछ लेना यार, वो राज सर गाइड कर देंगे उसमें तुमको. पेपर बिल्कुल देना है और मेहनत करके देना है. ओके, सो लेट्स गेट इनटू द क्वेश्चंस नाउ. सो 11 क्वेश्चंस हमने किए थे नाउन्स के, 11 ही प्रोनाउन के कर लेते हैं. क्रिएटिव चैनल, हाँ यार, सारे हाई फ्रीक्वेंसी डाउट्स मैं रोज रोज 5 बजे काम करवाऊंगा, कवर करेंगे. बहुत सारे लोगों का स्नैप है, एनमैट है, जल्दी में है, सो उसको कोशिश करेंगे कि जितना जल्दी हो सके उसमें रैप अप करें. सो हियर इज योर क्वेश्चन. Ridhima, that's absolutely okay, yaar, no worries. No problems with that. And absolutely, hi Ashish, good. सलोनी, क्या 1 महीने में प्रेपरेशन पूरा हो जाएगा? बहुत डाउटफुल है कि हो पाए, पर अगर फॉर्म भर दिया है तो पेपर तो देना है ना. डाउटफुल ही है. अगर आप ZAT की बात कर रहे हैं तो वी हैव 36 days. Will you be able to complete the syllabus if you start today? I'll not be very confident about it. But if money is not an issue and you're thinking of filling up the form, तो भर दो, देखेंगे फिर और क्या होगा. ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा 2200 रुपये लग जाएंगे, और क्या है. 2200 तो ZAT के है, उसके ऊपर एग्जाम आने में अप्लाई करने का कितना पैसा लग रहा है, बताना ज़रा. कोमल, GMAT with OMET, I don't know. It depends on your profile and what you're targeting, okay? So ping me, do reach out to me in our Facebook group or message me, and then let's take on this conversation then, okay? So 200 per course, हाँ, तो 2200 plus whatever, तो 2500 रुपये का खर्चा, कुछ खास नहीं है. So you guys are absolutely right. The correct answer here is C. Fabulous. Okay, question number 13. कन्हैया बिल्कुल ठीक बोल रहे हैं आप. उसका कारण क्या है, दैट वट एवर कम्स आफ्टर प्रेपोजिशन, वट एवर नाउन और प्रोनाउन कम्स आफ्टर इट इज गोइंग टू बी द ऑब्जेक्ट ऑफ द प्रेपोजिशन. C. Okay, 1D. So C versus D for question number 13. The correct answer is D, and the reason is that this pronoun, what is the noun for this? The noun for this pronoun is vessel. right? So it corresponds to this. Now vessel is singular. So because vessel is singular, it should not be a plural pronoun. We should use it is. So it is the product of the artisan's creativity. The vessel is the product, right? जो बर्तन बनाया है वो है ना उसका प्रोडक्ट, तो इसलिए ये. Okay, then 14th. Saloni, we have a Facebook group called Cat Preparation iQUANTA. I am also there. So if you've joined that group, you can ping me there, reach out to me there. Okay, D, B, D, B, D, B. Okay. So when it comes to convocation, you can use on, you can use for, both are right. Both of them will change the meaning slightly, but it's not that on is incorrect, but this who is definitely incorrect. So the director of the company whom we read about in a business magazine last month. Now what is the strategy? So you know that who replaces a subject and whom replaces an object. So who is the subjective case, whom is the objective case, or if you've gone through some hardcore grammar book, who is the nominative case, whom is the accusative case, whichever label you are familiar with. So how do I tell you to resolve this who versus whom debate? So here is my process, okay, 3-step process. So in case you are doubtful about who or whom, then what do? Step 1, put a full stop here. Put a full stop, right? Then delete it. Now you are left with an incomplete part. How do you complete it? We read about him in a business magazine. So the pronoun that we've put here, who and whom, are called relative pronouns, by the way. If you've not attended grammar classes, you want to study, just Google relative pronouns and you'd be able to read this relevant area. So this pronoun is replacing him. Now tell me, him is a subject or an object? Object, because subject to he hota hai na. He is the subject, him is an object. So ye object ko replace kar raha hai, because it is replacing an object. Instead of who, you need whom. So that 3-step process: full stop, delete it, and then complete that incomplete part. That will tell you what you are supposed to use. Moon, yes, the director of the company is coming. So the director is the subject of this clause. The director of the company is coming. But when you look at this particular clause, is the director acting as the subject in this clause as well? Every clause happens to have its own subject, right? So ऐसे blindly थोड़ी देख लेंगे यार, थोड़ा who और whom में थोड़ा issue रहता है. Okay? Next. मयंक, nice. कन्हैया says इसका concept वापस से repeat कर देना. यार कर देंगे, चल पढ़ लेना एक बार relative pronoun खुद से यार, थोड़ा बहुत relative pronouns पढ़ ले, who versus which versus that, उसके साथ उसके बाद जो डाउट है वो पूछ लेना. एक्चुअली पंगा ये हो जाएगा कि अगर स्पेसिफिकली इसमें जाना शुरू कर दिया हमने कॉन्सेप्ट्स में, तो फिर बहुत टाइम लग जाएगा यार. Okay, loads of answers coming in. I like it. Okay, so the correct answer is B. It should be his. So I think a lot of us do at times have a problem with many a. Now many a is an old structure. So you can say many a man. And if you use many a in this construction, then the noun, the verb, the corresponding pronouns, everything should be singular thereafter. Okay, so those of us who said A, yes, you can fix it by saying how many men have. You can fix it through that route as well. But then the problem is you'll fix it only if this part is wrong. This part is not wrong. So many a man is equal to many men. Both of them are right. And because many a man is right, we'll not mark this part as an error. But when you start using many a man has, whatever you use to refer to this man subsequently should also be singular, and that is why that there needs to be changed into his. And thus, our answer here should be option B. So once again, many a man has prepared for the cat over the years. And that's fine. You can replace this you can remove this and then make everything else plural, even that is fine. Slightly old structure, and therefore you don't get to see it that often, and therefore you may feel that it is incorrect. But it is correct. It is something that does get asked occasionally in the exams. So now you know. Next question. Oh, Muskan, Ashesh, Pritha, Ainu and Shalvi are the first five. Ashika, thank you. Thank you. I love it. Okay, so absolutely right. The answer is C. Instead of myself, it should be me. Can somebody tell me why? Can you tell me why? So these pronouns that end in self, they do act as an object in a sentence. Okay, they can act as objects, right? But they are to be used as an object only in those sentences where the subject and the object happen to be the same person or the same persons. So here, the subject and the object are not the same person, and therefore you cannot use the self-ending pronouns to act as objects. Okay, so you need to use your conventional personal pronoun object here, which is me. And Mayank, absolutely correct, reflexive. Is it a live class? Yes, Dream Crew, it is a live class. Here is the evidence. Next. Abhinav, okay, Abhinav has shared his answer. So you notice I politely asked the teacher. So you remember there is something called direct speech and indirect speech. So in direct speech you say I politely asked the teacher, comma, quote, and then there will be a question. So when you take that question out of the quote marks and use the indirect speech, when there is a question in there, you can use, if it's an open-ended question, you can use either if or whether. Both of them are okay in such scenarios. In close-ended questions, you'd use if or whether interchangeably. So whether is absolutely okay. You can use if, that will also be correct. Right? I politely asked the teacher whether the principal would mind me leaving early. No, he would not mind me leaving early. He would mind my leaving early. So what is there to mind? What is there that the teacher can be concerned about? Your act of leaving early. This is the thing that he'd object towards. Now, who is leaving early? You. So just go ahead and use the possessive adjective or the possessive pronoun here. And not the object. The object is leaving early. This gerund phrase, I'm sorry if I scared you by this label, but you can always thankfully Google it, is already acting as an object for the verb. So you just needed a my in place of me. Yes, narration, dream crew, absolutely. A direct indirect speech is change of narration, yes. Okay, question number 18 on your screen. Unfiltered, why would the teacher mind leaving me early? I mean, that's a different meaning altogether. The sentence won't even make much sense. Okay, so what is the difference between who, which and that? So you remember who is used for persons, which is used for everything else, and that can be used for persons as well as everything else. So the question here is, this pronoun who is referring to the noun cultures. Cultures, is that a person? No, it is not. So because we are not referring to a person, we cannot use who. It has to be which or that. I'd prefer that for that restrictive versus non-restrictive thing that you're going to Google after the class. With the cultures that were better at trading saw. So the thing is, who is definitely wrong because not referring to a person, and that is why the answer is A. Okay. In their wealth is absolutely okay because we are talking about cultures. That's a plural noun. Therefore, it has to take a plural pronoun. Right? Next. Question number 19. What's your take? Okay. Dream crew, Dhanush, Shweta, Shalvi, Muskan. Okay, so you're absolutely right. The correct answer is A. When we see nouns and pronouns of different persons together, okay, first person, second person, third person, then normally their sequence is third person, second person, first person, or second person, third person, first person. There is an exception where we use first, second, third, but normally you use one of these two and both of these are considered grammatically correct. But here we are using first, second and third, that's why it is wrong. So you write it as you, she and I, or she, you and I, both of them are acceptable. That's why the error is in part A, and here is the next one. रोहित से सर लड़के भी हैं क्लास में। भाई मैं तो जो पहले 5 आंसर दे रहे हैं उनके नाम ले रहा हूं, तू दे पहले 5 में आंसर, फिर तेरा नाम भी लेता हूं। हाँ अभिनव, पॉजिटिव नेगेटिव सेंस, हाँ मतलब एक तरह से हाँ, बट वो नेगेटिव सेंस बोलना शायद थोड़ा कंफ्यूजिंग हो जाएगा। द आइडिया बेसिकली इज दैट इफ यू आर एक्सेप्टिंग दैट यू आर रॉन्ग, or if you're accepting blame for something, or you know that something bad is going to happen, then in those situations you use first, second, third. मतलब जब कुछ what is concomitant? Concomitant is associated. If two things happen together, or if one of those things is accompanied by another thing, then we say that those things are concomitant. So existing or occurring with something else. Okay, loads of answers streaming in. This should be B instead of I. We should have me. For a very brief while, think. What if I remove Rini and? Now what would you write? The manager expects I to make the presentation. The manager expects me to make the presentation. Whatever you have here is basically acting as an object of the verb expects, right? And I is a subject, me is the one which is an object, right? That is why we cannot use I. It is just that there are times when we join two things together with and we at times lose sight of that fact. So please make sure, or please remember that conjunctions join two things together, they do not affect the case. Subject will remain a subject, object will remain an object. And with that, here is your question number 21. हाँ मयंक, नॉर्मली तो ऐसा ही होता है, सही कह रहा है यार. Okay, is it A, is it B? Let's see. Each school must evolve. Now you notice, you remember, we've talked about these in our classes, those of you who attended those. There are 4 pronouns which are called distributive pronouns. Which 4 pronouns? Each, every, either, neither. And remember, either when used with or, neither when used with nor becomes a conjunction. It's only when you use them without or and nor respectively, they are pronouns. So these 4 distributive pronouns are always singular. Okay, so when you say each school, it should be its own and not their own. And that is why the correct answer here is B. Okay. So remember, pronoun antecedent agreement, because this part is singular, the pronoun that refers to it must also be singular. And here is your 22nd question. आशीष, आप एवरी भी लिख सकते हैं, एवरी भी सही होगा, बट ईच भी सही है. So I can say each student is expected to do his or her homework. I can say every student is expected to do his or her homework. Both of them are right. Each makes it a little more personal. Every gives you a feeling of a group. Both of them are right. तो गलती उसमें नहीं है इसलिए. Okay, so the answer here is, as a lot of you figured out, A. You notice health is the noun here. So what you need right before it is the possessive case. Now the possessive case of one is one's. It is written with an apostrophe. So this apostrophe needs to be there. So you see this? When you say one's without the apostrophe, then that's a different word altogether. Okay? One's basically means examples, people. So if I ask you to get some, don't forget to pick up some fruit. Do remember that you are supposed to allow, you are supposed to not buy the very ripe ones. So you just used as a plural pronoun there. Okay? So one's health is much more important than having lots of money. Now you legit, you're saying lots of money bhi to incorrect hai. Dekho, lots of money utna galat nahi hai. Now what do I mean by this? Lots of money is considered informal. The formal version is a lot of. The formal version is a lot of. बट ये इनफॉर्मल वर्जन है, तो ये तो डेफिनेटली गलत है. यहाँ पे सिर्फ फर्क है फॉर्मल वर्सेस इनफॉर्मल का. सो इफ यू वर टू कंपेयर विच एरर विल बी बिगर, इट्स डेफिनेटली रॉन्ग. हियर इट्स जस्ट अ मैटर ऑफ tone or registry, right? Therefore C is still okay, right? Much more is absolutely all right. Whenever you want a modifier for more, you use much. That's correct. Okay, so that's basically it. So this is what I plan to take you through, nouns and pronouns at their core. Now that we have gone ahead and talked about these, this is where I'd leave you. So when we meet tomorrow at 5, do carry any concern that you have from the world of tenses. Okay, that's going to be our focus area for tomorrow. That's it from me today. Keep working hard and stay safe until we meet next. Take care.